Welcome to Property Mama, episode 13. My Property Mama channel is where I share all about the real estate shenanigans and going on that happen in the world of real estate. If we have not met before, my name is Wendy Chamberlain and I am a buyer's advocate, buyer's agent here in Melbourne, Victoria in Australia. We also do sales of properties for clients as well. And in today's episode, I wanted to share a little bit about the shenanigans that go on when we're hunting for a property for a client. So you may or may not be aware that when you're looking at a particular area, often there is, depending on where it is and the type of property you might be looking for, there's a limited pool of buyers that might be looking at that particular property. So we were working recently with clients who fell in love with this property. It was all single level, it was close to the village, and they thought it was the ants pants. They loved it. We looked at other properties. They just weren't enamored with those properties. And the situation with this property was it was being sold because the mother was being put into care. And so it was being auctioned. And the mum had 12 kids. Can you imagine? It'd be like herding cats, getting everybody onto the same page. And so the agent basically was just saying, look, it's going to be easier if we auction the property because that way we can have a decision on the day. And so they wouldn't sell it beforehand. And so this was at the start of the process. Generally here in Melbourne, auction campaigns can take 3 weeks and auction on the 4th or slightly shorter depending on the real estate agency. But because the agent wasn't prepared to sell the property before the auction, we had to wait. We just had to wait. So we went ahead, we were waiting. And as I always suggest to my clients, getting a building and pest inspection done. And so when we were talking about this, I think we were 3 weeks out from the auction. And so we were waiting until closer to the auction, just in case another property came on the market that my clients might have been interested in and not having to spend the money on getting a building and pest inspection on a property that they were no longer interested in. Anyway, the week before the auction, I think is where the week of the auction, we had our building and pest inspector go out and have a look at this property. And it failed building and pest. And my clients were mortified. They'd fallen in love. They'd basically moved all their furniture into this property. And it failed building and pest. So my clients were not interested at all in doing any updates or significant works to the property they're looking to buy. They're not at that stage in their life. They're not interested. And this property had 2 bathrooms, both of which needed renovation. And we're not just talking, let's just seal up some gaps and then we'll be fine. No, this was that you would have to at some point, maybe 5 years down the track or whatever, rip out the bathrooms and redo them because they wouldn't last the longer term. And my client said, nah, they're not interested in that. So what is interesting about that, and I see this all the time, is buyers not doing their due diligence. Because I know when we are looking at a property, I will always ask the agent, have any other inspections been done? Any building and pest inspections been done? And many times they haven't been. They haven't been. So that property was going to go to the auction. And based on it failing the building and pest inspection, my client said, no, we're not interested in taking that property on. Like I said, they were gutted because they wanted to buy this property. But it wasn't going to work for them. So that's fine. So we were looking at other properties at the same time. So at the start of this episode, I mentioned about how they're generally, for a particular type of property, there's a smaller pool of buyers that are interested. Now, you may not know is that the agents know this, and so they are looking to get you as a buyer across to their property. And so this property that was going to auction, in talking with one particular agent, in talking to another agent, because we're talking to lots of agents in the area, going, what else have you got? And so they had a client that they were working with, a buyer client, who came off that one that failed the building and pest. That was before building and pest was done, and bought another property in a neighbouring suburb. So they basically were taken off that original property as a potential buyer. And in talking to the real estate agent, they said, look, we've got this property coming up off market. Would your clients like to have a look at it? And I said, yes. What's the address? Had a look. And I said, yes, they absolutely would love to have a look at this property. So we went through this property. And then the next thing, the agent says, well, they're going to send it to market. And I said, well, why did you get us to come and have a look at this property when it was off market when you were going to send it to the market anyway? I go, it doesn't make sense to me, because you're going to, as a seller, if you've got somebody that's happy to buy your property and pay a good price for your property, why would you then go and spend another 5,000-6,000 plus on marketing? But that's free marketing for the agents, because the vendor's paying for them to have all their banners online. If you go look at realestate.com.au, go look at Domain, all of that marketing, all those colours and branding and everything is paid for by the vendor. So an agent may well want a property to go to the market because it's how they get more listings. So there's a saying called you can't sell a secret. Well, we buy off markets all the time. So there's secret listings, pocket listings, whatever you want to call it. But for the real estate agent, that's a secret insofar as the buyers in the area, including sellers, are not going to know that they've been involved in that property sale. So they themselves feel they have a vested interest in getting a property to the market. So I asked that question. I said, why did you show us this property? And apparently the husband was keen to look at an offer, but the wife was, no, she wants to go to market. And they were looking at this other one that had failed the building and pest. Now, this was before we'd done the building and pest inspection, so before they knew that it failed. So that's really, really interesting. And so in my conversations with that agent, my clients had a look at that property and they really liked it and they were prepared to make an offer. But the agents and vendor were not entertaining it at that point. And the agent actually said to me, she goes, oh, look, I don't want to take you off that property, but I've got this other one off market. And so when I say there's a limited pool of buyers, the agents will pull you from property to property to property to try and get you to buy their stock. Because the one that was going to auction wasn't this particular agent, it was another agent. And so they said that this particular builder, there was 3 on the block, and he was looking to sell number 2 and number 3. And so I gave the address to my clients, showed them the property. They said, yes, they'd love to have a look. So my clients go out and have a look at this property. And next thing, I get a call from my clients and they say, well, we saw number 2, but we weren't able to get through number 3. And I go, what are you talking about? We organised to get you through 2 and 3. And they said, well, the vendors decided not to sell number 3. So I was not told this before my clients went out, because the agent is wanting my clients to buy number 2. So what had happened, I found out later, was that the wife of the builder had seen the front one and decided that, why we're living in an old crappy house, let's move in the front one. And they always wanted to retain one. And so they decided to retain the bigger one, which is number 3 at the back, and they wanted to sell number 2. And my clients didn't want number 2, they wanted number 3. So it's not what we were told. It's not what we were told. Anyway, so there's always properties coming through and people are always buying properties along the way. And so this property went to auction, the one that failed building and pest. And the agent that was selling this property is known, absolutely known for underquoting. I mean, I can tell you all the agents that underquote because I do this every day. I see what they do. I absolutely see what they do. And it was underquoted. We knew that. And our clients were prepared to pay well above the asking price, but it failed building and pest. And what I find interesting is oftentimes a property will sell for what it would have sold for if it was in basically perfect condition. This property was not in perfect condition. It was older. The lady that lived there was older. She hadn't maintained it very well. But it sold $120,000 above the guide price. So the owners of that property that said that they might look at selling it, the one where the husband would but the wife wouldn't, they were waiting to see that result. Now, their property was double story. This was single level, closer to the village, so it had much more appeal for an older demographic. But it's interesting what goes on. And so we didn't buy that, and many of us are scratching our head about that result for that property and going, I guess it's worth what someone's prepared to pay on the day. So someone thought it was worth that. I don't think it was. We didn't buy it, so it doesn't matter in the end of the day. However, our clients saw another property that came on to the market in a neighbouring suburb with the same real estate agency. And I tell you, they underquote, because I know they underquote. And what I find interesting, so here in Victoria, I think about 2 years ago now, they introduced what is called the Statement of Information. And what it is, Consumer Affairs has the real estate agent, when they put a property on the public market, provide this Statement of Information. And what it is, it's comparable sales. So it is 3 recent sales in the last 6 months within 2 kilometres of the property that's for sale. So there's little tricks and quirks that the agents get up to. I know what they do. Number one, because I've been doing this a long time, I see what they do. Number two is they tell me when we're selling properties, they tell me what they're doing. So I had a look at the statement of information. We're now in May. The 3 properties were all from November. They're from last year. So they're not even comparable to the current market. That's flag number 1. Flag number 2 is that 2 of the properties were in a different suburb. Because some suburbs border each other and they're within 2 kilometres, the agents get away with listing a property in a neighbouring suburb. Now, you may be aware that properties in one suburb may sell for more than properties in a neighbouring suburb, sometimes called a bridesmaid suburb. So what often happens in a market, in a property market, where someone is looking to buy a home and they'd love to get into suburb X, they can't afford it, so they go next door and buy a property in suburb Y. And so over time, that's how gentrification happens, because X has become too expensive, so they go next door and they buy in suburb Y. But Y, generally, for the same kind of product, is less. And so they'd listed 2 properties on this listing in a neighbouring suburb, which were not comparable at all. So I jumped online and very quickly and easily found recent sales that were comparable to the property that was being sold. Other little tricks that they use is that they'll compare a property on a smaller land size than the land you're looking to buy, because land is a big component of price. And so if a property is on a small block, it likely has sold for less money. So that's something to look out for. Also, things like properties on main roads, when the property you're looking to buy is not on a main road, because main road locations can remove up to 10% of the value on a property. And other things such as the state of repair of a property and the number of bedrooms, that kind of thing. So if a house in a comparable is smaller or not as renovated as the one you're looking at, it's going to have sold for less. So these are the little tricks that they use to effectively skirt around the underquoting laws, because they have provided 3 comparables within 2 kilometres within the last 6 months. They have legally done that, but they're not comparable. But unless you know what you're doing, you won't know that. You won't know that. So it's very, very interesting. So I looked at this property, which was had just come on the market, and it was a sale by expression of interest by set date, which was in 4 weeks' time. Now, one thing that people don't realise is that just because a date is in 4 weeks' time doesn't mean you have to wait until the expiration of that date to buy the property. And particularly when we're talking about properties that are popular, well-regarded, getting a lot of interest in them, it's not going to wait. So when you work with a buyer's advocate, which is what we do, and I've been buying and selling property for nearly 30 years. So there are a set number of steps, due diligence steps, that happen when you want to buy a property, when you want to buy a house. Now, there's slight nuances to it, but the basics are the same. And you need to know these things. And it's because I do this all the time, and I know the steps and I know the order of the steps. That's how we can buy real estate for our clients and effectively knock out the competition. So the first open for inspection for this property was on the coming Saturday. I wanted to get my clients through earlier than that because I wanted them to have a look at it, see if they liked it, because if they didn't, I wanted to move on. But if they did, given it's an expression of interest, if we have a contract available, we can get that property under offer. We can make an offer where we've got a contract. As it turned out, there was a contract available. My clients saw the property. They loved the property. And I was just getting hold of the agent just to ask a few extra questions about what terms would be favourable to the vendor. So the first public open was that Saturday. My clients didn't go. They'd already seen the property. And there was a cast of thousands. There was so many people going through this property because it was very unusual, was beautifully built, and had some special features and things which obviously appealed to my client, but also appealed to others in the market. And it was quite unusual to get those kind of features in this particular property. So we got on the front foot. Because I'm buying real estate every day, I know how to get on the front foot. I know how to line up my ducks, get everybody in the process organized, get them standing there in the wings, and I know how to effectively cut out the competition. So we had our offer in to the agent by lunchtime on the Monday. Other people, like there was dozens of them, had seen this house, loved this house, were contemplating what they were doing, taking their time, because they don't buy real estate all the time. I do. I know what's involved. I know the steps. I know the order of the steps. I know who's involved. I know what needs to be done. I got that all lined up, got our offer written up, got it through to the agent. And I heard back today that we have been the successful buyers of that property because we were able to move so quickly. And the agent actually said to me that by the speed at which I moved, I got a lot of buyers on the hop, because he said many buyers would be coming back later in the week to have a second look at the property. And because people like to take their time, because they're not doing it all the time. And so they're working out, okay, if I wanted to get a building and pest inspection, who do I need to get organized for that? When can they come along? What do I need to do? Okay, there's a contract. I need that checked by a solicitor. When is the solicitor available to do that? How long is that going to take? How many business days turnaround are they going to take for all of that? And I can tell you that's not how you buy real estate. When you're a buyer's advocate, that is not how you buy real estate. You know what's involved. You know who the parties are. You know who needs to see what, the order in which things are to be done, and you line them all up, get it all covered off, put in there whatever protections for our client that we need to put in there, and that is what we did. And they're now soon to be owners of a new property. So if that's you, if you are out there hunting for properties, going to auctions, missing out at auction, feeling that you just can't find a property that's going to work for you, that's going to be in your budget, if you're super frustrated by the underquoting that goes on, and it doesn't matter what suburb it's in, the underquoting happens, this is where we can help you. So please get in touch. I would love to work with you. I would love to also be able to be making that phone call to you to say, congratulations, you've just purchased a house. And I can tell you there's no better feeling that we know that we've done all our due diligence steps. Our client is in love with the property and they are now the winning bidders on the property and are going to be the proud owners of this gorgeous new home for the foreseeable future. And that is what we do at Chamberlain Advocates. We have a number of advocates on board, so we are there. If you need us to negotiate the purchase of a property, we can do that for you. If you found something and it's going to auction and you're just not confident, or you're not going to be available, or you just get so nervous to the point of wanting to vomit at turning up at an auction. And I was talking to somebody recently who is at that point. They just can't stand going along to auctions because they can't. Their feeling is they can't believe what the agents are telling them. They don't know who's telling the truth. And unfortunately, in our industry, that is rife, that you don't know who's telling the truth, because the one thing to keep in mind, to remember, is that the real estate agent is not working for you. The real estate agent is working for their seller, their vendor. Their job is to get the property sold and to get as much money as they can for that sale. So they will talk to you, be nice to you, etc., but you're not their client. You become our client because we protect your interests through the buying process. And I've been doing this for a long time and I've seen lots of shenanigans. So please get in touch. Let's do this. Just reach out on your favorite social channel We have our property mama every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. So go to our website, www.chamberlainadvocates.com.au, and let's have a conversation about how we can finally help you get into your perfect home. It's what we do. It absolutely makes me fill with joy when I can help clients buy a property, because it can be a minefield out there. And if you don't know what you're doing, you haven't done it before, we haven't done it for a while, it can be a challenge for you. And knowing who you can trust, we are working with you. We are the ones that you can trust. We are your independent voice. We are your trusted advocate, voicing for you. And that's what we do. So get in touch if you'd like us to help you finally get into your new home. And one of the other things that we offer is my Get Started in Property.com.au mentoring program. It's a step-by-step program, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world. It shows you step-by-step all of those due diligence steps. You know, I said that the way that I can buy real estate, how I do for my clients, is because I know the steps, I know the orders of the steps, I know how fast I can move, getting those steps implemented. I pull that all out of my brain and put it into my Get Started in Property.com.au mentoring program. We have 38 modules. It's a monthly program. You get 2 modules a month, and you will gain the confidence to buy a property. If you're nervous about speaking to real estate agents, we've done scripts for that. So when you're getting on the phone, so you don't feel like you're going to sound silly, we've got a script that you can follow, the questions you need to ask. We've covered everything that's involved in helping you to finally buy a property. So if that's for you, head to www.getstartedinproperty.com.au, have a read, and we can help you finally get into your home. So thank you again for joining me on today's episode of Property Mama. I absolutely love what I do. As I said, I've been doing it for nearly 3 decades, and there's all kinds of shenanigans that go on, and you'd think there'd be things that I've seen it all. Nah, I've not seen it all, because there's always something new that's cropping up. So reach out if you've got any comments or questions, if you've got anything, any topics you'd love me to cover. Happy to have a look at those for you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are. Have a great time, and I'll see you